University. First of all, let me just say I am proud of all of you all for being here in school and for being here today, just trying to learn, trying to figure it out. We're just proud. I want to thank
On behalf of the entire Delaware State University community, I would like to thank you for coming to speak to us today.
It's a pleasure.
You and your husband, Barack Obama, could possibly be the first African-American couple to reside in the White House. How does that make you feel?
You know, I don't think as much about the symbolism around race as I do around, you know, what potentially can be done with a president who brings just a whole different view of the world and perspective on life. You know, I think that is going to have just as much of an impact. So I think about, you know, what would it be like to have somebody who has lived in the world, has worked as a community organizer, someone who, you know, has just a different outlook on the way America is perceived in the world. I think that, you know, could be potentially powerful, but I also think about, you know, what it means for young people in this country to see, you know, regular folks who are like them, you know, who've grown up in working class communities, who've sort of struggled their way through college and paying loans, you know, leaders who are more rooted to sort of everyday life. I think that at some level, you know, we could perhaps make the work at that level of government feel more accessible to folks around this country.
We are at a point in this nation where we need to be inspired because our souls are broken. There is a hole in our souls that needs to be filled, and it needs to be filled with a little inspiration and a little vision that's going to demand that we are different. And the only person in this race who has the chance of doing it is my husband, Barack Obama. And let me tell you why I say that, because a lot of people say, well, of course she's going to say that. She's married to him. Yes, and I do love my husband. I think he's cute. We got a few people who agree. So yeah, I like him.
What was your first reaction when Barack first came to you and said, I want to run for president?
No way, absolutely. What are you thinking? Because we had just, you know, we just barely got out of that U.S. Senate race. We'd finished it. It was a successful campaign. He won by an overwhelming majority. But you know, we had just gotten adjusted to that. You know, the structure of the U.S. Senate. You know, and to think that we're going to start this thing all over again was not of a great appeal to me. But after sort of thinking about it, not just from the selfish perspective of this is going to be hard on me, I thought about the broader implications of having somebody like Barack leading the nation. Then I started thinking about my kids and all the kids in the country who need, you know, better education, and somebody who's going to prioritize health in the environment, who's going to get us out of a war that we shouldn't have been in. I started thinking about that and thought, you know, how could I not support this endeavor, because this would be the kind of man I would want to lead the country. So, you know, let me take off my selfish hat and roll up my sleeves and get to work.
Often in minority communities, and sometimes even here on our campus of DSU, you will hear people say that they don't care to vote because simply they feel as though their voice won't be heard or it doesn't matter. What would you tell those people to go get them to register to vote and to go out to the polls in November?
Well, I'd say, well, if cynicism worked, then folks would be okay. I mean, when I run across a young person who says that they don't vote, the first thing I say, well, everything must be okay in your life. You know, that means you're all set. And so is the next generation that you're going to produce. That means you got the perfect job and you're being paid the wage you need. You don't have any loans, any debts. You know, you're living in another planet where there's a clean environment. You know, you got your loans paid off. You got a college education. You're just set. The answer is usually no.
Definitely.
And if that's not the case, then, you know, what I say is that we just can't afford cynicism. You know, if cynicism worked, then the answers to all those questions would be yes. You know, life is good. But for most minorities and most young people, you know, you guys are looking at a future that will be a mess. and you're going to have to own it because those problems don't go away when you give up your seat at the table. You know, the truth of the matter is that if democracy stopped just because people got sick and tired of it and thought that it didn't work, if it stopped completely, then maybe I'd say that's a good strategy, but it never stops. It just keeps going, and when you give up your seat at the table, somebody else just comes and takes it, and they take it with glee. Because then they say, well, I can really move my agenda now that these young people don't care and these black folks don't care, then now I'm going to come in and start making decisions that, you know, are more suited to my best interests. And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I wish that that were the case, because it's a lot easier not to be bothered, right? It's a lot easier to live in your world and to, you know, live your life. But, you know, we don't get anywhere that way. So we have to change.
On college campuses, college-bound black women are considered to be a triple threat. And they say that because we're, number one, we're women, we're black, and we're educated. And that theory says that when we go out on our career paths, that it will be 3 times harder for us to get a job. Have you ever in your life experienced that type of discrimination?
You know, I think for me, to the extent that I've experienced discrimination, it had more to do around race. I mean, everywhere that I've gone, whether it's my college or my job, there were always far more women who were already there holding positions of power as partners in law firms. You know, the gender balance in all the colleges and law schools that I went to were always on par, but I was always one of a handful of minorities, of black people. You know, in my law firm setting when I practiced, there were a handful of black attorneys and very few black partners. Even when I worked in government, you would see more, but there were still few people at the top. Even in nonprofits, what you see is that there are plenty of women in charge of organizations who serve on boards, but the numbers of African Americans and Latinos, those numbers are still down, because the truth of the matter is that people still, you know, if folks at the top are looking at you, the first thing they see is race. So then you know, you're dealing with overcoming this notion that I am like you. You know, I do possess the skills, the talents, the acumen that you need to get the job done, but it's usually based around race. That's been my experience, and that's not to say that there still aren't imbalances in the areas of gender, but, you know, like I said, I am rarely the only woman in the room, but I'm always the only black person in the room. It is more likely than not. And I think we need to do a much better job in making opportunities available to young people of color, whether it's internships on the Hill, whether it's, you know, getting more young people exposed to campaigns, giving more African Americans an opportunity to serve on corporate boards and to really exercise leadership. Because then when you get to these stations in life and you're running for president and the question becomes who has the most experience, well, if you've been excluded from all the opportunities to get the experience that then will legitimize you as a candidate, you know, and you don't have them because you never had the opportunity to get there, you know, that's a pathway that says we will never see people of color in ranks of power if we continue to sort of play that game. So we still have a lot of work to do, and you know, I am hopeful that you know, African American women, especially young women, understand that they play an important role in changing some of these stereotypes. I wouldn't see it as a triple threat, but see it as a triple opportunity, you know? It's like everything. You're gonna have to be smarter, you're gonna have to work harder, you're gonna have to be tougher than any of your colleagues, and you have to own that. And when you get to where you're gonna be, you have to look back down and reach down and bring a whole bunch of other people up right behind you every time.
And the world is watching us. The world still believes in that magical America, that great democracy. They think there is fairness and justice here on these shores, and they are hopeful. They are dying for us to get this right because they want to believe in the dream of America. This is on us. And if we work hard and if we believe, we can do something amazing. So join us. Thank you.